Hi. So welcome to our Saturday workshop. What I thought I'd like to start with is a little bit of meditation. This afternoon, I'm going to move into the larger room and we can do a little bit of movement. But for now, I wanted to start with a simple purification meditation. For some of you who don't come to the morning sessions may not have experienced it. And then I want to start answering questions. And I think I'm going to start with Bill's. Bill, you sent me down a rabbit hole of inquiry. They were really great questions. Thank you. And I'm not sure that I'm actually even qualified to answer some of them, but I will do the best I can. And then if it's not answered to your satisfaction, my strong suggestion is that you go to someone like Geshe-la, who's had like 40 years of training in the monastery. And has dealt with all of these texts at great depth, much, much deeper than myself. So if I'm not able to answer to your satisfaction and more questions arise as a result of my answers, then I would suggest you go talk to someone who's had quite a bit more experience than myself, but I'll do the best I can for today. Also bearing in mind that this particular practice, Lama Yeshe was very much of the mind that Westerners could practice Tantra. It was supposed to be highly secret. It was supposed to be something that you weren't supposed to do unless you had X, Y, and Z in place. But Lama Yeshe had this idea that Westerners had this mind that was very, very active and was able to cope with Tantra. There was also, he received a lot of criticism for introducing everyone to this idea of bodhicitta as well, which is supposed to be also extremely secret. So a lot of these practices that we're doing to sort of almost the general public, and people are dropping in who aren't even Buddhist and who stay and are still continuing to do this practice. Actually, if you look at it carefully, which is what Bill did, there's quite a bit of Tantra in there. And I think it's okay. Venerable Rabina wrote it for this particular purpose. She knew it was going to be going on to YouTube and online. And so I feel quite happy to be helping to deliver it. So anyway, whatever questions arise through that practice, I just welcome them. And then it just helps us deepen our own practice and also your own as well. So let's get started with a simple meditation. I'm just going to take my time a little bit with this today so you can get an experience. Make sure you're comfortable. So nice to see so many here. I didn't expect. All right. So just try and bring your mind into a place of stillness, whatever that means to you, and just try and show up and be present for yourself. And, also for the others in the group. Because even though we are on Zoom, you can still feel energetically where people are at. So just however you are turning up this morning, just know it's completely fine. This is where you are. So if you feel that you might be even spinning a little bit, maybe something's going on after class, maybe something went on this morning, yesterday evening, just take a nice deep breath. Accept this is where you are. And try and access this place of stillness inside of you. It is really who you are. It is there all the time for you to access, even though we don't often feel that. But it is there. We can access it. I believe if it wasn't within us, we wouldn't ever be able to get there. And we know we can. So if you are sitting with your feet flat on the floor, feel all the little toe pads into the carpet or the floor or whatever surface you're on. And then the inner big toe mound, the outer pinky toe mound. So feel that part of the foot. And then just get a sense of the outer arch. Some people have higher arches than others. So you may have more or less of that part of the foot on the ground, and then the soles of the feet. So you now have a sense of the whole foot. This is the foot, helps us balance, which we don't take really much notice of what our feet are doing until they're injured, and then we realize all of a sudden, oh, that affects my knee, that affects my ankle, that affects my hip. It changes the whole way we walk. So feet are very important. We need to take care of them. So now feel or notice, if you are sitting on your chair, or the weight of the feet, the weight of the legs in the ankles, in the feet. Maybe you can feel the weight of your hands on your lap. Feel the sits bones in the chair. Shoulders are aligned with the hips. Now imagine your spine is a string of pearls of light stretching from the base all the way up through the crown of the head and beyond. Just lengthen your spine. Put some space in between those vertebrae. And just imagine all the muscles, all the ligaments, all the connective tissue, the fascia, all of it just releasing, lengthening, letting go. If you have any inflammation in your body, just visualize that inflammation going down. Normalizing. Now imagine you have a crown, the crayon on the crown of your head. And you reaching with your crown up to the ceiling above. And you want to draw the arc of a rainbow. So just imagine you're drawing the first arc of your rainbow. And allow your head to hinge from the top of the neck, from the top of the spine. Just dropping forward very slightly. Putting a little bit of length in the back of the neck. The eyes, if they were open, they'd be looking along the length of the nose to a spot a couple of inches ahead. If you do choose to keep your eyes open, have what they call a dristi gaze, which is it's almost like you can check your peripheral vision. You're not really focused on any particular spot. Well, you are. You're focused on a spot in front of you, but be aware of your peripheral vision. Change your focus to the spot in front of you. Become aware of your peripheral vision. Change your focus to the spot in front of you. And just see how that impacts you. Check the difference. Maybe you want to keep your eyes closed. Kadrala, a couple of weekends ago, we were down in Atlanta Medicine Border near Santa Cruz, the Santa Cruz Mountains. Kadra was giving teachings there on emptiness and Atara empowerment. She suggested that one might want to keep their eyes open when they meditate. She said, because you never see the deities with their eyes closed. But that's fairly advanced. I think we all know that if we meditate with our eyes open, we get very easily distracted. So we can start with our eyes closed. The only the only proviso with eyes closed is that it's a tendency for us to kind of space out and go to sleep. So we want to be careful not to encourage our minds to be dull while we're meditating. So now bring your awareness to the crown of the head and relax the scalp and the forehead, the eyes, the nose, and the cheeks, the mouth, the jaw. Go to the back of the head. Check the occipital bone, the skin around that. Just release that. And relax the jaw again, and the back of the tongue, the temples, the back of the neck. And allow your shoulders and shoulder blades to drop down. Relax the throat and the chest and the belly and all of your limbs. And bring the mind to the breath, just noticing the sensation of the air as you're inhaling and exhaling. So the sensations can be in the outside of the nostrils, the base of the nose, depending on your previous experience or your training, even just the shape of your nose. Some people may prefer to be aware of the rising and the falling of the chest, the rising and the falling of the belly. Now be aware of the sounds around you in your environment, in your home, out in the street. Pets, birds, people. And just allow those sounds to be there. Try not to just follow them all around with the mind. Of course, it's part of our safety mechanism to alert us to something that's out of the ordinary, that we need to maybe protect ourselves. But for the regular sounds that are in the house, it's almost like we have a happily distracted. So just be aware when your mind happily goes off to investigate something. Very gently bring it back. And bring your attention to the thoughts in your mind. What's going on? What are you thinking? And allow them to arise. And just notice what's happening today. Is it different to yesterday? All of these things can change according to what we watched, what we listened to, who we spoke with, what we ate, how much we slept. You can categorize these thoughts. Perhaps just simply thinking is enough. You can also maybe think, oh, that's planning. Here I am future tripping. Oh, there's a worry. Oh, I'm worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet. I think that's what worry implies. And don't judge or criticize yourself. Just be grateful that you can see what's there Be like an objective observer, like a scientist, just curious, investigating the mind. Know what's there. Some things we might want to change. Some things we are happy to see. So then just put yourself on the bank of your river. And how does it look today? Is it sparkling and clear, flowing gently? Or is it a little rough? Is it muddy? Is there debris in it? Is there grass? Are you sitting on grass? Are there trees? How does your river and your riverbank look? As you take a deep breath, realize that while you're sitting on the bank, you're free from the river. It's really very simple. It feels a lot more complicated to take a step back from our mind, to not engage in it. Putting space in between our thoughts. Giving ourselves space from our own thoughts. Phew, what a relief. So now bring to mind these people of our life, our loved ones, very dear and precious, very dear friends. And then there's those people that we don't like particularly. Perhaps they harmed us. Perhaps they're no longer in our life, but they still harmed us. We still have an internal relationship with them. And perhaps we push them away with aversion. Maybe we have to encounter them at family dinners. Anyway, we don't like them. And then there's our strangers. We probably have more strangers in our life when we go to the supermarket, get on the freeway, walk down the street. But despite how we feel about each one of these people, they can change place, these relationships. And bring to mind a relationship in your life that has shifted from a stranger to a spouse, from a stranger to a very dear friend, from a stranger to someone you didn't like, from someone you didn't like to a stranger, from someone you loved to a stranger, from someone you didn't like to someone you loved. And you can just acknowledge that really we're all the same. We're all on this same clunky old bus together. In this thing called life. So we're all equal. We all want to be happy. We all want the best seat on the bus. We have an airport bus here called the Marine Airporter. So everyone here gets that bus to the airport, to San Francisco, to SFO. And everybody wants to get on the front seat. And the bus driver doesn't like you to talk on your phone. We all just want to be happy. We all want to be comfortable. And then we all want to avoid suffering. We all want to be free from any kind of problem, any kind of pain. And then we all have this capacity for a Buddha mind. And that's something we should always remember. You can think of a politician that you don't like, or who you disagree with, or who frustrates you. And try and wrap your mind around this idea that that person wants to be happy. That person doesn't want to suffer. And that person actually has the potential for Buddhahood. And what never ceases to amaze me is when China was invaded, it forced His Holiness Dalai Lama over the mountains into India. Then hundreds of thousands of Tibetans followed. And then gradually, Buddhism spread, Tibetan Buddhism spread throughout the West. Forced many lamas to come out of Tibet. They ended up coming to the West, and we received the benefit of their teachings. We received the benefit of His Holiness. All thanks to Mao Zedong, mostly, because I suspect His Holiness would have stayed there in Lhasa, and people like myself would never, ever in a million years have been given an opportunity to meet with His Holiness, be ordained by His Holiness. So who knows? Who was Mao Zedong? So what ended up being is a very, very difficult situation for so many, also created so much benefit also to so many. So I don't know where we wrap our mind around that, but it's a curious thought. I think we'll do this workshop this morning for the benefit of all these people of our life. And given I brought them into our mind, all the people perhaps in Tibet who are now not happy or suffering, all the Chinese people who are not happy or suffering, anybody that's experiencing any kind of difficulties, anyone who is involved in a war, anyone who is impacted by climate change. I think all the practices we'll do this morning to benefit others and to ourselves as we move along our spiritual path. So let's just start now. We'll do this meditation on simple purification. So we're often identifying ourselves more with our negative side than our positive side. We often feel guilty about any mistakes we've made. We tend to prefer to think things like, oh, I'm hopeless, I can't control my anger, I can't do anything right, I'm not lovable. So stupid of me to back the car into that other truck. What was I thinking? Why was I so distracted? No. And we continue to give ourselves a hard time. It's almost like we think we're permanent. We think these problems are permanent. We think all our negativities are permanent, and we can actually free ourselves from our negative energy. And this burden of guilt that we carry around like this monster on our back. So one of the ways we deal with all of this is this purification practice we're doing every evening, 5 nights a week. And it's the process of purification. So today we're going to start with this simple purification. It's a recurring theme in Buddhist meditation, Tibetan Buddhist meditation. And it's really just a matter of changing the way we think. If we think that we're impure and negative, we're going to become that. As this low, depressed self-image gradually permeates our behavior, permeates our outlook on life. It colors the way we see things. You know, when you wake up in the morning and you're feeling really happy, everything looks fantastic, even if it's a cloudy day. And if you wake up in the morning and you feel really, really depressed, it changes everything. Even if it's sunny, it's too hot outside. Oh God, I've got to water the plants. Why did the squirrels eat all my bird food? And we feel limited and inadequate, and we don't even give ourselves a chance to change. We are limitless. So recognize your potential for perfection, and by sincerely putting energy into developing it, we can cultivate a more positive self-image. So the very basis of our being is pure, clear. And by believing in that, by recognizing that, that's the first step in becoming pure. And what needs to be purified, therefore, is our lack of self-confidence, our tendency to identify with our negative energy, as well as the negative energy itself. So this particular meditation contains the essence of purification, letting go of problems and mistakes, seeing them as temporary and obscurations rather than as an intrinsic part of our nature. And this meditation also helps us to get in touch with and develop our natural good energy, which is what we all have. So turn your attention again to your breath. And just breathe normally for a moment, feeling the sensation of the breath, the air as you're inhaling and exhaling. So now imagine you're inhaling all the positive energy in the universe. It enters you in the form of pure, blissful, radiant white light. And just imagine this light flowing into every part of your body, filling every cell and every atom, making you relaxed and light and blissful. So just do this with every inhalation. And we're going to do this now for maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Notice if you've spaced out or your mind's wandering off, and just very gently bring it back. Bring it back to the breath. Blissful, radiant light pouring into you as you breathe in, filling you. breathing in all the positive energy in the universe. So now, very slowly, begin to breathe out dark smoke with every exhalation. And imagine that all your negative energy, past mistakes, distorted conceptions, and disturbing emotions leave your body with the breath in the form of dark smoke or fog. And this smoke goes into space and it disappears completely. You're not polluting the environment. You're not breathing it back in. You're just making that smoke leave the body, and it becomes non-existent the minute it leaves you. And really try and feel confident that you've freed yourself of every trace of faults and negativity. So we'll try this for a few minutes. And remember, when you're inhaling blissful, radiant white light, and you're breathing out the dark smoke of your problems, breathing in the white light of good energy, breathing out the dark smoke of all of your problems. When you are distracted by thoughts or other experiences, simply observe them without reacting or getting involved. Just notice what's there. And you can also transform these distractions into dark smoke and breathe them out so they disappear. So let's try that for 5 minutes. We'll just do that. And these negativities you're exhaling can also be sensations, feelings, pain, illness, as well as thoughts. Everyone just relax. Just very slowly bring yourself back into your room, into the Zoom. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay. And yes, good idea, Bonnie. Take a drink, please. May not be hot there, wherever you are. It's hot here. Getting there on my home. Okay. How was that for everyone? Does anyone have anything they'd like to share? Talk about? No? Yes, Barbara. Hi, Kenny. Kenny, I just want to introduce everyone to Kenny. Kenny is from Belgium. And who's that? Is that Kenny? That's Buddha. Kenny's from Belgium. He has been doing our meditations over YouTube because he can't, the timing is difficult for him. It's like the middle of the night or something. So anyway, welcome, Kenny. I'm glad to see you here. Barbara, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to share that while we were inhaling positive energy, I started thinking about, is there really any negative energy?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
And what we label, and I just will personalize it, what I would label as a negative energy is probably it's one of those good news, bad news, who knows? It could be the best energy for me to be working on something, whether it's a negative attribute that I notice that I term in someone else, again, can be my opportunity. So then that is not negative. So that's, I don't know, I'm just sharing that.
I mean, that's a really interesting point because it kind of meets up a little bit with what I was saying in the beginning about the Chinese invasion in Tibet.
Exactly.
I mean, it's horrible for many of them. It was disastrous for many of them. But the benefit that somehow that whole situation brought to the rest of the world is, I guess we can't even contemplate. And what you're saying is also sometimes we can turn what could be negative energy into positive. Like, for example, you're getting hyperactive, but somehow you're able to turn that into focus it in on your work and somehow create something. So I guess then what you're perhaps saying is that if it's the way we interpret our world that we decide whether something is positive or negative. And you might see historically over time how things have changed, in terms of many years ago, many centuries ago, women working, that was seen as a very negative thing. Now it's seen as a really positive thing. Men doing women's work wasn't seen as a positive thing. Now it's like applauded, or encouraged, or just normal. It's like we all need to keep the house clean, and it doesn't matter what gender you are. So gender stereotypes have shifted over the years as well, over the centuries. So yeah, it's really it is very, very interesting. So thanks for bringing that up, Barbara. I mean, so what can we, I've just been reading a little bit about this Gilgo Beach person, the architect. And he seemed that he killed quite a few people, mainly, well, it was women, prostitutes. And the people that didn't end up getting kind of drawn into his called Come Back to My House said that he just had a really bad vibe. So in a way, that also his negative energy, that the negative energy that he was giving off, set up an alert for them, enabled them to get free, and also now help the police. So, I mean, who knows? It just depends how we put it. But also that person's negative energy saved the other people, so the people that were aware of it. They were like, I don't like this, I'm getting out. I don't know if that's making sense at all. But anyway, it's very interesting to even think about negative energy and positive energy are not black and white in the way that we think of them. But anyway, for the purposes of that meditation, it was just the way it was written. But anyway, thank you. Sheil, you had your hand up there, my friend.
Yes, I actually, as we were doing the meditation, and you were speaking about the Dalai Lama and about, the political issues that happened in China. And I think the words you used just really took a spin on and giving me a different perspective of an incident that's happened to me. And I now look at it in the light that you were speaking of, and it just has really put a big light into me. So I want to say,
That's really
I'm
good.
grateful that I'm able to kind of be in this session, because I would have never had this sort of perspective had I not been here, had I not listened to you giving that perspective of the Dalai Lama, and how, if it wasn't that he left Tibet to come to go to India, we wouldn't, like someone like myself would not have even been aware of Tibetan Buddhism. And how, you look at what happened and the political issues that happened there, you can easily be very angry at the leader who caused this. But when you spoke, and it was just a light bulb that came into me in my own life, that I'm like, okay, yeah, I can look at that situation in this light. So thank you.
My pleasure. And I think it's also that kind of speaks to what Barbara was saying as well.
Yes.
It depends on how we interpret a situation. And sometimes we can use negative situations as an opportunity to grow. And in a way, when we do it that way, we harm ourselves less. Because when we get kind of wrapped up in, oh, I've been harmed, I have PTSD, and not negating any of that stuff by any means, but, we can really go into our pain if we wanted to. And it's good to acknowledge at times, it's good to work through. So that's the benefit of having therapy. And sometimes also it comes to a point where we have to just maybe reframe what's happened. It doesn't mean we're being in denial. It doesn't mean that we're being disloyal to ourselves. It doesn't mean we're being weak. It just means that we're trying to protect ourselves. Because as long as we're thinking negatively, that's just what we're going to become. So in a way, yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheil. Thank you so much for sharing that. And anybody else here have anything they want to share before I start with Bill's questions? Hi, Bobby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob, go ahead.
I think I tend to think of, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Bobby.
Oh, okay. Okay. I tend to think of them mostly not negative, positive, but label them attachments and aversions, because that kind of gets me right to the heart of how I need to work on my thinking.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent.
And that's what lights it up for me.
Oh, that's really good. How long have you been doing that?
For quite a while, because
Mm-hmm.
it helps me. And I do it in a lot in when I'm having a bad day. I mean, I walk around saying, okay, am I attached to this? What's, to try to use those labels, because it I don't know, it loosens it up somehow. I don't feel bad. How's that? I don't feel bad. I don't feel guilty. I just have these attachments and aversions, and oh well, I'm still human.
Exactly. And we're all on the bus together. And I think actually what you're doing is you're labeling the thoughts. And by labeling the thoughts, you're enabling yourself to put a little space in between you, the
Right.
thoughts, and the emotions that they elicit. So that's excellent. Yeah. Because this is exactly what we do at the beginning of the meditation, where we try and categorize what it is. And attachments and aversions is wonderful, because it's basically then we become attached to our aversions and we cling to them like that's, I am definitely right. This person deserves to be here. Yeah. Anyway, anybody else? Thanks, Bobby. Anyone else? Anything else? Anna.
Hi, Venerable. Lovely to be here.
Hi.
Thank
Thank you for having me. Whatever. Come.
you. Yeah, just something to add, just about the power of meditation. Not only psychologically, but practically, physiologically. I used to suffer from a condition called Raynaud's. And it came from, I was working as an outdoor instructor. I was in extremely cold temperatures, then extremely hot, and it messes with your circulation system. And then it joins up to stress, the emotion of stress. So even on a boiling, Shayla's shaking her head there with me, even on a boiling hot day, if you had a shock or a stress, something upset you, your circulation could cut off. And it cuts off with your extremities, so your ears, your nose, your hands, your
Huh?
feet. In extreme situations, if it continues, um, you can end up having your digits having to be removed, green gang, and all of that. But I used meditation years and years ago now. After I worked as an outdoor instructor, and it cleared. It physically, because I went for tests to hospital, it physically changed my circulatory system. It's yeah, amazing, that powerful. And the darkest day, the worst in the world, something for me which was worse than my mum dying. If I can apply some and relabel, as Bobby was bringing up, Barbara noted as well. If I can relabel that and see, the benefits and not just the negatives, you can change your mind. You can make a 180 turn sometimes so quickly. It's so powerful. Yeah, I just wanted to add that. Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you. I mean, you can't, Lamy Eshe would say you can just, we do have the power to change our mind, but often we think we feel powerless. And I think we have to get away from feeling powerless. And by what all of you are doing, that you have said you are doing, Barbara, Bobby, and Anna, is that you've discovered a way to change your mind. That's extremely powerful. And look how simple it is. We just have to believe that we can do it. Sheil, yes.
Sorry, Anna, I didn't catch, was this from you working outdoor? You were working outdoor and you were in the extreme conditions? Is that what you were saying? I didn't catch it because I was distracted.
Yeah, sorry, Sheil. The disease called Raynaud's disease, so it's triggered either by stress, so it's a systemic illness, really, and it can be triggered from working in extreme temperatures, so being in cold 1 minute straight to, a warm environment, and vice versa. So that kind of upsets the circulatory system.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you.
And it sounds as if you're putting the body into fight or flight by going from, because you probably were working outdoors and you came inside to the heat, whatever you were doing. And
Yeah,
and if your body's quite sensitive, it probably doesn't like that constant shift and change, right?
that's right. Now it went away for years and years and years, but when I did have a massive life-changing event, it came back, but I noticed that it was with
Interesting.
stress. So I don't
Interesting.
really have it now at all.
Oh, that's wonderful. See, that's really amazing. Okay, anyone else before I'm going to start on Bill's questions? No, nothing. Okay. All right. So let me pull his questions up. Oop. Oh. Bill, is William, right? I'm just getting your email.
Yes, that's right. William.Michener.
William. William Michener?
Yes.
Here we go. All right. William's first question was, okay, so everyone here has done that purification practice, right? We all know what we're talking about. So he talks about, the question that William had was under the power of reliance, where we describe how Vajrasattva is, he wants to know about the bell as representing wisdom and the Vajra as representing the indestructibility of compassion. So I'm going to start with what is a Vajra. This is a Vajra. So the dorje and bell are used together in Tibetan Buddhism. And it's used for personal practice and also in pujas, in ritual. So I did a little bit of, I couldn't find the origin of the bell, but I did find the origin of the dorje. The dorje is also called dorje Vajra thunderbolt. In some cultures, it's a weapon. But its shape, these little things, this all has symbolic meaning. So let me start with here. I found some interesting things on the dorje. This was from Tricycle. So they talk. So I'll just read you. It's particularly associated with Vajrayana Buddhism, which is Tibetan Buddhism. And the vehicle of yana of the Vajra represents indestructible power. And several of the early Mahayana sutras spoke of Vajra Samadhi, the final meditative absorption that a bodhisattva engages in before entering Buddhahood. The place of Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment is known as Vajrasana, a term that refers to both the actual site, marked by a stone slab, and by extension to Bodhgaya. So the posture of the meditating Buddha is also called Vajrasana. So if you've anyone's done any yoga, they talk about asanas, which is posture. And this is the posture known to the yoga practitioners today. So Often the Vajra appears as a weapon, like a lightning bolt of the Northern European god Thor or the Southern European god Zeus. So this idea of a Vajra or a thunderbolt or a dorje has been around for eons. It's also associated with the Indian Vedic god Indra, king of the heavens, who appears in early Buddhist tales as Chakra, and Chakra is mighty. And the Vajra weapon is wielded like a club by figures such as Vajrapani in order to subdue an external or internal obstacle, thus simultaneously a tool of compassion and skillful means leading to the indestructible state of enlightenment. So if you haven't got much experience with Tantra or Tibetan Buddhism, this all just sounds like fairy tales. But so in Tibetan Buddhism, we have the dorje, the bell, and the mala. And these are all kind of used together in practice. So the physical form of the Vajra is determined by its purpose, the ritual that's been used. So the design is often just pretty simple and basic like this. So it's also used in Japanese tradition. Shingong or shugendo, a single-pronged Vajra, is generally used for protection from nagas. Nagas are also talked about in Tibetan Buddhism as well. So then we have also what's called a five-prong, five-prong Vajra, which can represent the five celestial Buddhas, the five Buddha wisdoms. They are the five families, and this form is favored by the new schools of Tibetan Buddhism, Kadam, Shakya, Kagyu, and Gelug. And the old school is the Nyingma school, and they prefer nine-pronged Vajra. So, I mean, there we go into quite a lot of detail here, but it's a ritual implement that's used. They talk about here Vajras coming out of India and Nepal at the end of the first millennium are usually a simple design. And the more ornate examples appear in China during the Yuan dynasty in the early 14th century, when the ruling Mongolia emperor had elaborate Vajras and bells created as gifts for Mongolian teachers, and again during the Ming dynasty when the Yongdao emperor had gifts made for the visiting Karmapa of the Kagyu school. So it's been around for eons. And I suspect, well, it did. They talked about it coming out of India, but it probably was there, but I suspect it's been there for a long time. Okay, so there's that one. So it sort of represents stability, power, indestructibility. It also represents compassion. So they talk about wrath in Tibetan Buddhism as not anger, but it's almost like when you see a child running in front of a car on the street, you grab them and pull them away and say, do not do that again. So you're not angry with them, you're being wrathful with them to make out of your trying to save their life, out of your kindness, out of your compassion, you rescued them, but you want to make sure that they don't think it's okay to walk on the road again. So you compassionately wrathful with them. So this is also, in Vajrapani's case, it's used to subdue obscurations, delusions, whatever. And sometimes that is the role of our teachers. But anyway, in this case, it also represents the male in Tibetan Buddhism. So there's that as well. So, the bell, wisdom is more like the feminine in Tibetan Buddhism. Held with the left hand. It's very rich in its symbolic meaning. It really is associated with the mother, Prajnaparamita, she from whom all reality comes, And the sound of the bell, you can attract. You're inviting deities to come. You're inviting the dakinis to come and participate in pujas. It also warns or drives away obstructing forces. So the ringing on the bell can also remind one of emptiness of phenomena, or bring the mind into greater awareness. And as a musical instrument, it's used as an offering as well. So it's also important on many different levels. And it's also quite ornately designed. Each feature of the bell has meaning. So I won't go into it right now here, but this is also something if you're interested in, you can probably find out quite a bit of detail. But, you know, it depends on the tradition. So it's good to ask Geshe-la. So that's about the bell. Now, does that satisfy you? Is it clear?
Yeah, I think so. So well, one observation, it's interesting that, you know, the Vajra was initially a weapon, and then it converted over to meaning indestructibility of compassion.
Yeah.
Then the bell that you just showed, the design looked very similar to what was on the Vajra as well. I don't know if that's true or not.
I mean, they do make it to match. It is these little prongs. Yeah, they have meaning.
Yeah. Okay.
So we are, anyway, so that's the Vajra and bell.
Mhm.
And many, you know, I guess when I never had one. And then when I ordained in Dharamsala, I decided I better go have one now as a nun. I thought I should have one. I still didn't really know what they meant, you know. What was it? I just did it because that's what we needed in puja. And I think in many respects with Tibetan Buddhism, there's so much ritual. There is so much meaning. There is so much, it's so much depth to it. You'll probably find there's whole texts on the meaning of every single little, the way the metal is built, the type of, why they've used gold, and it's not gold, it's like fake paint, but you know, why is there this thing in the middle here? What are these little, this is a lotus. I mean, you know, you could go deeper and deeper and deeper into this. And I mean, it's fascinating. If you actually ever get an opportunity to do any art classes with Andy Weber, he's like really, he does draw these things. And as you're doing your art classes with him, he explains it. So anyway, it's only going to be limited by the knowledge of the person that you're kind of with. But there is a lot of depth and meaning to the dorje and the bell. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Does anyone else have any questions? And you don't, oh, hi, Kenny.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, of course. Welcome. Nice to see you.
First time.
Yeah, you're our secret Vajrasattva meditator.
Yeah. I want to mention there is a book, Tibetan Buddhist Symbols.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
From Robert Beer.
Yes.
You can see it. And there you can find all the details of the Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism symbols with drawings and some explanation to not just everything you want as there. Then the pictures are included are also by Andy Weber. Some
wonderful. Yeah.
Just a note I wanted to add in.
Thank you so much.
Can you put that in the chat, please?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind
I will.
that as well.
If I find it, because Zoom is new for me.
Oh, okay. No, we can just tell us what it is and Shayla can put it in the chat.
It's the Handbook of Tibetan Buddhist Symbols by Robert Beer. There are two editions, a small one and a bigger one. Yes. You can see it. It's blurred. One moment.
I've got it's $23.99 online.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just going to download a sample and I will It's written and illustrated by Robert Beer, Beer. It's by Shambhala.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think they're maybe the second edition has some things by Andy Weber. This looks wonderful. So if you are interested in, if you are interested in this, okay, let me share the screen and I can just show you. Oh, here we are. There you go. I'll take you to the cover. There you go. That's what it looks like. So if anybody wants to get that, wants to know more, there's a lot. Okay, I'm going to take that off now. Okay, where are we? We're in these questions. Does that satisfy you, Bill? Are you okay?
Yes, that's great. Thank you. I'll look up some more info.
Okay, go ahead. There's a lot online. And then if you get stuck, are you in Santa Fe?
Yes.
No, you are. Yeah. Contact Geshe-la. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer your questions. And the next question, you said you have trouble hearing and pronouncing 2 of the 3 verses at the end of the mantra, the syllables. Vajra Mamemutsa Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva. Yes, we can go over that mantra slowly. Is everyone okay with that if we do that now? Okay, let me just pull it up. Yeah, where's it gone? That's my text. Okay. All right. Okay, so it's Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Dino Patita Dido Mebawa Sutoshaya Mebawa. That changes according, it's shifted from Venerable Rabina saying it differently now than when she first taught it. Suposhaya Mebawa, I think I'm saying Kaya. Anarakta Mebawa, Sawa Siddhi Mempayatsa, Sawa Karma Sutsa Me, Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum, Ha 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 Ho Bhagawan, Sava Tathagata Vajra Mamemutsa, Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva, Ahum Pe. Does that make sense, Bill?
Yes, I just guess I need to practice saying it fast.
When we do the practice this afternoon, I can recite it a couple of times more slowly if you like, if that's helpful. Okay.
I'm from the South where we speak and hear a lot slower.
Oh, I see. It's the heat. It's probably the heat. Okay. So I'm just going to put that one away, get back to your questions. And he wanted to know if anyone else had problem with that mantra. Hi, Marion. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Sorry to be late.
No problem. We're going to finish in 15 minutes, but we'll be back again at 1 o'clock our time. Does anyone else have trouble with the mantra? No? Kathleen? Barbara? Sheil? Okay. Where are the problems?
I did, but it's okay now. I understand. the
Okay,
lack-
cool.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Sheil. Barbara?
I don't have difficulty saying the mantra. What I have difficulty with is I just I really forget the meaning. And I've gone through it several times, but I forget the meaning in English. So I just immerse myself in the mantra and then just don't think about it.
That's perfect.
Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
what
Yeah, because the thing about Sanskrit, it's an original language. It is extraordinary language. It's there. The thing about Sanskrit that I understand is the vowels and the syllables themselves. When you speak them and think about them, they are helpful to the body, to the they impact the energy of the body. They impact the energy of the mind. And I suspect this is why the Tibetans didn't have their mantras in Tibetan. They have them in Sanskrit. It's quite, I mean, I've never studied Sanskrit. I know it's quite complicated. I have one monk friend who's doing a master's degree in Sanskrit in Canada. And this man is absolutely brilliant. I think it's probably way beyond. But anyway, he's very good with the language, and he's very good with Eastern languages. But I think there's something quite extraordinary about that language. So I think by trying to focus on the actual meaning, I've never been told that that's something that we should be doing when we're reciting mantra. It's almost like the recitation of the mantra, the immersion of yourself in the visualization, that's enough. I mean, if you want to kind of go and check out the meaning, that of course that's fine, but it's very long. And it's kind of, it looks, the translation almost looks stilted to me as well. So I kind of feel the magic of the mantra would get lost if you start to intellectualize it a little bit too much. So I think what you're doing with it is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah. Marion, hi.
Hi. Well, I wanted to understand, because you're saying to say the mantra and the significance of the Sanskrit words and sound. Sometimes I feel like when we're doing the mantra so quickly that I am not kind of enunciating very correctly. So I worry that I'm not really saying the mantra correctly, and therefore am I not then getting the benefits, which seems to be what you're indicating.
Oh,
because you're saying that the Sanskrit is so meaningful, but if I'm mispronouncing it because of my mouth doesn't go that fast, then I'm worried. Then am I kind of actually creating a negative imprint if I'm not pronouncing things correctly?
I think if you were making fun of the mantra, yes, you would be creating negative karma. But because your motivation is sincere and you're trying, I think that's the important thing. I have to say it. I mean, if you want to be a perfectionist and recite it correctly, and you'll probably find, according to somebody's accent, it's going to change. And as I said, Venerable Rabina was saying it one way 20 years ago. Now she's saying it another. So a couple of the syllables in there have slightly changed. I honestly think it's more about your ability to visualize than to be absolutely perfect and correct in the way you're saying it. Because you might run into somebody in 2 years' time who says the mantra slightly differently. Or maybe, because Rinpoche used to change also. Okay, I think we should be, this syllable should be written like this. So then it would mean that he did that quite a couple of times with the morning mantras, with the Om, A, I, U, those ones, they got changed. So I was used to saying it one way, and then Rinpoche wanted it changed to something something else. So I don't know what it was that Rinpoche had read or heard that made him change it. But all I'm saying to you is don't worry for now. Practice it. Like I said, we are going to do it more slowly this afternoon when we do the practice. And I wouldn't worry about it. But it's almost like as if you were intentionally saying it incorrectly or intentionally kind of making fun of the practice. That would be, I'd say it's negative. You'd be creating some negativity there. But because your intention is to do the practice and to do it sincerely, I don't think it really is a problem. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think that's the least of the things you need to worry about. I think there is even a story I heard about of somebody who was given a mantra. I don't know. I can't remember it exactly. I don't know, Kenny, if you heard this story, but a lama gave this woman a mantra, and she was saying it completely incorrectly, but it still had the same effect. And then she found out later on down the track that actually she had been saying the mantra incorrectly, but it didn't make a difference because what was important was what was in her mind, that and her faith. It was like her devotion, her faith, and her commitment to her practice that was important. Yeah. So of course the magic of Sanskrit is there, but you're probably saying enough of it correctly to not have it impact you negatively. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Was it Marion,
Happy to
by the
hear
way,
that.
everyone is a perfectionist. So
I wouldn't say that. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask is, like sometimes mantras are said more slowly and other times, more quickly. And I just wanted to know why is that so? Like sometimes in certain practices, the same mantra will be said a little bit more slowly. And then when you're doing it with your mala, then you're, going really, really fast. So I just wanted to understand what the significance is of that difference.
So I think it just traditionally, the way I learned was you would start like a whole. So if you have to do a mala, so maybe we would do 21 or 7 slowly so that everybody in the group gets it. But also so for your own mind that you're kind of in a way tuned into the mantra, because I know what happens when I get to 21 and I start going, oh, mani padme on. I kind of, in a way, I'm not always really completely focused. So in a way, I think starting out slowly tunes your mind into it. Then also it becomes a matter of time. So if you're short of time, you might want to recite it a little bit faster. But if you have a bit more time, you can recite it more slowly. So if your intention is to do 108 Vajrasattvas, mantras, it's a long mantra, it's 100 syllables. You want to do that quickly. Otherwise, you're going to be there for half an hour. So when I was doing my Vajrasattva retreat in Australia, it took me 13 minutes quickly to recite a whole mala of the Vajrasattva mantra. I also found it a bit boring after a while. So what I would do is prostrate at the same time. But so I needed to time myself. So that's how I know I was doing it in 13 minutes. But I think it's more a thing of practicality than anything else. I mean, it's lovely if you've got time to recite certain mantras slowly or to chant them slowly. It's quite beautiful for a long time, but most people don't have the time or the patience to do that. So it's a practical thing. It's almost like it's better for you to recite 108 on Mani Padme Hum fast than not at all. So I would just, you just got to relax around it and just, do what makes sense. Lama Dhamma used to say, just be practical, dear. You would say that to everyone, just be practical. If it's cold outside, put a jacket on, be practical.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thanks so much.
I hope that helps. Yeah. Okay. Shayla. Gosh, we only got 5 minutes before we stop.
I'll hurry. He wanted to know about the weight of the bell, and then I wanted to add one more. Do you have any suggestions on size, anything, practical suggestions. Because, I could just imagine me buying the biggest.
Oh, no, don't do that. So what did you say? Well, I missed something. You said something, somebody asked about the weight.
Yes, he wanted to know about how heavy the bells are. And
Who wanted to know?
he,
Hi. Heavy. Okay. It's not very heavy. I don't know. But Hin, I would say if you're wanting to get a bell and you've got issues with bones and hands and things, you get a small one. So this, the one huh?
Oh, not for me. I'm just thinking about your wrist.
Oh, Hin, this is why I have a small one. So the reason I got this tiny little one when it was actually made for a child when I was in Dharamsala, and the reason I got it was because I was traveling a lot and going around with a great big Dorje bell. It's like, oh no, here we come again. They think I have a bomb in my bag. So it was really also weight practicality was to get a small one. Some people like to have nice big bell, but for me, I prefer the sound of a smaller one. And this bell that I had that I left in Namche Bazaar, which hopefully I can go back and get sometime soon, had a really sweet sound. But this one also has a sweet sound. So I kind of like the lighter. And I think Venerable Rabin also too, and one of the other participants of the Laudo trek last year also had a little bell like this, and Venerable Rabin, oh, this is so sweet. This just sounds like from Dakini land or something. But anyway, that's the reason I have a small one. And you can get them online, but it's much better if you're actually there in Boda and you're going around and I got this one came from Boda, and then it's kind of because you've got it at that place, but not everybody can go to Boda, I guess. But, if you get an opportunity to go to Nepal, there are many of these bells. You just try them all out, see which one you like the sound of. Or you can ask a friend next time they go there to pick you one up, or you can even order them from the monastery. From Kopan, I think. Yeah, Annie Fran had an online shop. I don't know if she still has it, but you can write to them and ask them. Yeah. Sheila, you have another question. I think it's going to be our last one before we break for lunch.
Yes. Should we be using the Dorji and bell when we recite the Vajrasattva mantra?
It is in the texts when you're doing when the Vajrasattva mantra is recited after, if you're in a sadhana, so say highest yoga tantra sadhana, or even the sadhana of Tara, they'll say the Vajrasattva mantra, and then you are supposed to ring the bell at the same time. Yes, but we don't have to for the purpose of this meditation. But when you do I think actually I brought it with me. If anybody is inspired to do the preliminary practice of Vajrasattva, Kopan Monastery does a 3-month retreat every year. And I think what you'll find, I'm just looking now. They're not telling you here. Anyway, in some sadhanas, you'll recite the Vajrasattva mantra as purification for any mistakes that you may have made while you were doing the practice. And at that particular time, it maybe you recite it 1 or 3 times, then you would ring the bell. And it usually tells you in the text whether you need to ring the bell or not with that mantra. But we don't need to for our practice.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Barbara.
My understanding is that one needs an empowerment or an initiation to use the bell and Vajra. Is that incorrect?
I don't know. I think maybe you do. I don't think though, because they're so widely available to buy, I don't think it particularly matters. I see the children in the monastery, the young monks and nuns are using them. And at that age, they haven't really had empowerments. So I'm not entirely sure but you do need to keep either an image of it, of a Dorje bell, or keep one on you at all times once you have taken a highest yoga tantric initiation or empowerment. But I think in order to use one, I'm not entirely sure actually. Kenny, do you know?
Yes. So if you are entitled for highest yoga tantra, there are sadhanas, the shorter sadhanas. Don't implement the Vajra and Bal initiations. It's mostly the long sadhanas who when you do the like a retreat or something, that it's a whole practice. But in the shorter sadhanas, sometimes they left it behind. But you always have to think about it mentally. But you don't have to have the physical implements in your hand. But you have to think about it mentally and visually. And like you say, it's best to have a picture if you don't have the real tools available.
I think what Barbara was saying was, can she use the Dorje bell without having received an initiation from a lama?
No, normally not.
I'm not sure.
I'm told you can't even read books of highest yoga tantra when you didn't.
Take
so
that.
it's a bit a mystery, I would say.
And it also too, because I've seen the young monks and nuns with them. So, and I know they're not getting initiations at that age. So, Barbara, I think that might be a question for perhaps for Venerable Rabina. Just see what she says about that, because, and I can also maybe write to her as well, but I can't, I know I was using them before I took initiation. No one said anything. So I'm not entirely sure. I ordained, and then I picked up my Dorje bell because I thought, now I'm ordained, I need one. I started using it. But the thing was, it was what I was using it for. So I was using my Dorje bell for my morning prayers. So I was using as an offering. So I was using the bell as an offering, and I was using the bell as in order to invoke, bring in the teachers, the deities, the Buddhas. So it wasn't any grand high practice that I was using it for. I wasn't using it in the context of highest yoga tantra. I was using it in the context of our morning prayers. And in our morning prayers, it said, ring the bell here. So I did. So that was that was how I started using it. Yeah. So in a way, I don't know. I mean, I guess it also depends on the purpose. It's in the Medicine Buddha Puja. It says, ring the bell here when you're making an offering. So that's what I do. But I was doing that before I took initiations. And sometimes the initiations aren't available for you to receive. Like Lama Zopa Rinpoche is not around anymore. Venerable Chodron Rinpoche is not around anymore. All these lamas that were here in America have passed away. So and now everyone's taking initiations online. And I mean, the whole thing's changed now. So I think we just have to do the very best we can and keep our minds pure, clear. Yeah. Kenny, one more question and then I have to let everyone break. Okay. Kenny? You nothing to say? Okay, everyone. Let's just dedicate our practice this morning. Just any positive energy we've created, any understandings or insights we have had this morning. Let's make it be of benefit to ourselves and to others. And you have a lovely lunch, everybody. And I will see you at what time? 2:00 Mountain Time. Is that correct, Shayla?
That is correct. 1:00.
1:00
Pacific.
Pacific. So if that's for me and Marion and Hin and Kathleen and Sheila, I'm not sure where you are, and you European people, It must
Is
be in
that
the
an
middle
hour
of
and a half? Is it an hour and a half?
an hour and a half. But what time is it? It's getting late there.
So it'll be 9 p.m. return
Okay.
here.
9 p.m. for you and 10 p.m. for Kenny, probably something like that. Okay, everyone.
Yeah.
Audit, I don't know where you are. Sheila, I'm not sure where you are. But anyway, lots of love, everybody. I'll see you in an hour and a half. Thank you very much. Bring your tennis balls with you
Oh,
if you have them. Yes, Mary.
Yeah. I'm sorry I was late.
No worries. Of course.
Anyway, but was this session recorded, and can you send me the recording so during lunch I can listen to the first part? Is that possible?
Shayla, I don't think so because
Just yet. Tomorrow or Monday, it will be on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So
Crazy.
sorry.
don't worry, Marion, it's fine. It's fine. I'll explain later what we did.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, see, no problem. I'll see you later. Bye, everyone.